Hello, my name is Chappie Ferrer. I'm the Executive Director of Military Outreach USA and the founder of Stand By Me Heroes. I'm an NCO, Iraqi vet, served in the 82nd and in the 7th Army. What we are bringing together is a framework. Our framework is a framework of hope and recovery. This is in a partnership with our friends at Crosswinds Foundation, and the manual that we're using as part of our framework also comes from crosswindsfoundation.org. Let's begin. We will review chapters 1 and 2, mental and emotional health. Why is this important? It's important before you begin a mission that you fill yourself with knowledge about the mission. And of course, your mental and emotional health is very important for success. When we talk about mental health, we're talking about injuries sustained in service. And there's a lot of different categories under mental health, but the most important part to know about mental health is that you need a professional, psychologists, counselors trained in this. And there's some very good ones out there. But we have to ask for that help. And there's emotional health. This is the difficult part that we all face because our emotions are defined by what we think, how we feel. And that often, it gets me in trouble. Again, we are focused on healing the whole person. So when we talk about all these different chapters, we are focused on mind, body, and soul. I am always confused when I hear people of trying to fix a problem, but it's only addressing part of the problem, not the whole. In order to help us, to help the human part of us, the spiritual part of us, we have to consider mind, body, and soul. If we are one or even two-dimensional, we will always fall short. And I think the numbers confirm this. So our main idea is to begin talking about mental injuries, acknowledge them. It's not an easy thing, especially for us guys to do, but it's still part of overcoming. There are invisible mental and emotional traumas. These include moral injury, and moral injury is not spoken of much, but along with others, Military Outreach USA will address this continuously for years to come. There's the post-traumatic stress that we deal with. And then, of course, there's military sexual trauma, which is rarely even spoken about. But we will discuss this because we are unafraid. There are effective methods that will be able to help us. And if we partner with specific individuals who can help us in these areas, we can overcome. Again, remember, if you've tried to fix one issue alone, you will never succeed. Two issues, you will never succeed. But if you consider mind, body, and soul, you will succeed. And we have proven this time and time again here in our Stand By Me Heroes program. Misperceptions. This is difficult. And I expect that all our service veteran organizations out there would start identifying these misperceptions and addressing them and educating the public, even educating those inside the Beltway who seem to not be knowledgeable in this area. Some of the misperceptions is moral injury. Well, it's only something that happens in your mind. It's not real. Have we not learned the truth of this? Post-traumatic stress. And it's had so many names throughout the decades, throughout the millennia, but it is still relevant, and it still impacts an enormous number of not only those of us that have served, but how many in the civilian communities that have gone through traumas of their own. Mental issues are best resolved by the professionals who are trained, and there are some very experienced professionals out there. Seek their help. It is available. None of our Foxhole Soul counselors are ever involved in this area, but we look to support whatever VA hospitals and other organizations that are out there helping individuals in this area. Let's consider what happens when we come home. Do you remember as veterans the day when you were counting down from day 100, getting ready to enter the civilian life? At first, you're excited. You're getting away from the madness. But then somewhere along that line, reality starts to set in. What's going to happen in the civilian life? Will I be able to get a job? How would I function? What will I do? Well, we review these in page 38 through 42, and we identify some of the changes that you're going to have to learn to assimilate to be successful. And you can be by using the skills you've already learned, which still apply when you become a civilian. Families will have changed. Communities will have changed. While we were out protecting the gates of freedom, life continued. So we will have to learn how we go about this, what the expectations are. And then there's teaming up. You have to team up. It's that simple. In my experiences over the years, I have heard many that have identified themselves as being self-reliant. They could do it on their own. They've been in this unit, in that unit. They've done these things, these great things. However, when they've entered civilian life, everything changed for them. And though they felt they could do it on their own, and they were quite adamant, it's sad that a year later, we read about them in the obituaries. So what we're looking here when it comes to mental health is a professional guidance that will help us as we continue forward. Now, there's some injuries that we talk about all the time. TBI, we've talked about that since the beginning of time, it seems. However, we've learned far more about TBI from those in football who suffer these brain injuries when they're hit hard, right? Whether it's a quarterback or anyone else. But in our situation as veterans, this would be similar to a bomb exploding or bombs exploding near or underneath us and how that affects us. And then there's post-traumatic stress. And this is something that we deal with on a regular basis. Most of us continue to deal with this. Though it is manageable, it still requires work. So these two injuries are part of what we're looking to help our professionals with, because at the end of the day, a veteran will always need a friend, always need a partner to help them through. I like this saying, and I hope you remember it, from Joe Montalban, an Iraqi war vet. He said that rough and tough type of attitude, that's, you gotta be the toughest soldier, the strongest leader, the best of the best. You believe it, so you try to tune out any weakness. Now, this is true. Those of us that have been in special units, we know that this is a requirement. We have to be the best of the best. But there also was a time while we've gone through all the training, when we completed the mission, that we needed some downtime. We needed to recuperate. So we have to be careful that our ego doesn't get ahead of us, that it creates a problem within us. So please be aware, there is a time to be outstanding, and there's a time in which you just calm yourself down. Try to get your perspective in order and prepare for another day. There is help. There's help available to everyone. You are not alone. Even though sometimes you may feel the need to be alone, that is the best time to not be alone. TBI creates several problems, but they are manageable, again, through professionals. There are doctors that deal with our physical issues in post-traumatic stress that we work with, even trainers that help us to get back into some type of physical training, which greatly helps us in this situation. Of course, there's emotional and spiritual issues to deal with as well. Now, for many of you, when I said spiritual issues, the first thing you thought of was religion. That's not the case. Faith came far before religion. And when we're talking about spiritual issues, if you do not address this issue and you become one or two-dimensional, your problem will continue. After all, the number 22 plus has certainly not decreased and proves this to be true. So when we look at a solution, we encompass the whole person, not just part. One of the cautions that we have to be aware of, and you as veterans have to continue to pursue with your doctor, is this issue of drugs. Drugs is not an answer for your issues, not all of them. And if the doctor doesn't have a solution to wean you off that drug, it may be time to find another doctor who will. Every veteran that I've spoken to that had 30, 40 different types of drugs they had to take, highly displeased. And by going to other professionals, they've been able to reduce that number to single digits. And some have been weaned off totally. So I hope the medical community takes this into consideration, but you have to be the primary person to speak up in this area. So let's talk about physical issues. There's the obvious ones, those you can't hide as much as you think you can. And there's those that you just have to simply own up to them. For us guys, that's an issue. We're full of ego. But there is a solution, but in that solution, you simply have to own up to them. This is probably one of the most important videos of our time. It's called Invisible Scars. You could go on the crosswindsfoundation.org website, and I would recommend that you purchase this video, purchase 100 of them, and start passing them out to veterans, that they may see these. And when you look at this video, I ask that you take consideration to bring your spouse into watching this with you, so that your spouse can understand, and eventually your family can also look at this video and understand why we are sometimes difficult, why we struggle sometimes out of the year. This video, this DVD, is an answer to help as part of your recovery, as part of your healing. Emotional health. This is a time, as King Solomon said, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. There's a time to kill, but there's also a time to heal. There's a time to break down, and there's a time to build up. There is a time to weep, and yes, grown men, heroes, weep. But there's also a time to laugh. Please allow yourself to laugh. Sure, there'll be a time to mourn, but do as I do in the privacy of my home. Take the time to dance. Let's talk about Chapter 2, Emotional Health. This is the biggest struggle of our time for men. Not so much our women. They know how to deal with their emotions. Us guys, not so much. Emotional health is defined as how we think and feel. The feeling part is the most difficult part, because we think as American heroes that we wear dog tags and we're supposed to be strong and above it all. It takes strength to identify your emotions, to learn how to deal with them. And it's probably a greater struggle than any that you've faced. We've all faced these physical training. I'm airborne. I've gone through jungle warfare, land nav courses. All these were physical and mental, but then there had to come a time when I had to deal with the emotions that came along with it. This is something that is not easy for us guys to do, but it is needful if we're to be successful, if we are to recover. Again, I'd like to stress mind, body, and soul. Let's not be single or even think of a two-dimensional solution. It has never worked. It hasn't worked for millennia. It's not going to work today as well. Remember those inappropriate emotions that surface? They will continue to surface. Part of what we're addressing here, part of this framework, provides hope and recovery. These are not just words we're throwing out there. We're putting this information out there because it has worked effectively. It's simple, and it's something that we're capable of not only doing for ourselves, but helping others as well. There are outbursts which usually tell us that something is beginning to brew. Sooner or later, a volcano will erupt. How do we handle situations when everyone is moving too slow? For us veterans, when we move into the civilian life, boy, that was slow. It was slow as molasses. And we had to temper ourselves. We had to learn to temper ourselves. And I learned through many of my mentors that were civilians and veterans how to begin to temper that. And that's required. There are tools that we can use to help calm the savage beast. Look for those tools. And I'm not talking about drugs or alcohol. That's called weakness. Music. Music can really be a part of that, along with other things. Let's talk about some of the stigmas that are out there, because there are always too many stigmas. And again, I challenge every veteran organization, every civilian organization, that you have a team within your organization. Military Outreach USA can help you in this, to identify and educate people about stigmas that are not true. But I find it amazing that many of these stigmas are spoken of even today, even in the veteran community, which should never have been. I know we don't like to explore our emotions because we're told exploring our emotions, well, that's a sign of weakness. Well, that's what a coward would say. It takes great strength to identify your emotions and greater strength to overcome your own emotions. And it can be done with friends and family. Alone, you think you could push through. If I can sit with you and give you the stories after stories after stories of what I thought were some of the greatest warriors that we've had, whose life did not end well because they didn't seek a friend, they didn't seek a partner. Our Foxhole Soul Counselor teams are those individuals that would like to partner with you and your organization to help reduce this number of 22 plus, help all of us to deal with these manageable emotions. Complete this idea. I do not like to speak about my emotions because, well, if you're a guy, is not this what we have been taught? There's always time for downtime. And good leaders will sit down and just talk as they identify those issues that may be obstacles. You have a choice. You either fight or you take flight. If you fight this battle, if you have a team that's guarding your six, you will always come out successful. How can I say that? How can I guarantee that? Because the key is in mind, body, and soul. And many of those that we have worked with today are managing not only those past issues, but they're helping others to manage those as well. So when we talk about fight or flight, we're talking about hypervigilance. We're talking about re-experiencing past symptoms. Let's not be those that try to avoid these issues. Let's look at them as a challenge, as an obstacle to be overcome. We all will have negative feelings. It's part of the battle that we face. Our flesh is fighting against our soul and reverse, but it's always winnable. Again, if you look at this video, Invisible Scars, it will help to begin the process. There's not a better video out there that helps identify this. And what's more important, you should review this again with your spouse, with your family. There's a self-check on page 57 of the Warrior Hope book, and I ask that you take a look at this. Draw your own conclusions about yourself, and then find a trusted friend to review these with you. But don't look for a yes person. Find someone that is experienced in these matters. Foxhole Soul Counselors are always available to you. You can contact us via our website. You can call us. Our information is available to you. But look at these with someone else and bounce your thoughts, your ideas off this person. In the military, when we practice our missions or when we practice for the mission, we did it as a team. We pointed out our weaknesses, we strengthened them, then we continued forward. The solution continues to be the same, whether you're military or a civilian. And the last, I'd like to remind us the possibility for those of you veterans, especially NCOs. You've worked in the foxholes. You worked to make sure that your team was always focused, always prepared. So we're looking to recruit, yes, officers, NCOs, civilians, anyone that has the capability to follow this scope of service and impact people's lives. If so, please contact us. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.